Super Mario RPG, standing for really fucking good, sees Mario in a light that is not usually cast upon him. We see Mario joined by Bowser, Peach, Mallow and Geno to embark upon a journey to gather the scattered 7 star pieces of Star Road and finally kick out the Smithy gang. These characters all have their own personal stories and motivations and why they're joining Mario 2, but you'll have to play the game to find out those motivations. So who is this Smithy gang and what are they all about? Well, they're this really creatively designed team that are hellbent on taking over the world. Don't believe me? Have a look at this. Look, it's a sword with eyes.
Everybody's so creative.
Then when we do first see Mario in this game, he is trying to save Peach from Bowser, a pretty standard practice for Mario. However, this is until a giant ass sword plummets from the sky, scattering Mario, Peach and Bowser in all different directions. Throughout your play, you will recruit these characters to join your fight, all of whom have their own strengths and weaknesses, and like any good RPG, there is a bunch of cosmetic and consumable items, all with a myriad of effects that you'll also be able to use to help you along your journey. We will discuss these items later on, but first of all, I do want to get into the game's fake outs because, whew, they had me sweating a little bit.
Mamma mia!
Whoa, no, not that fake out, this one. When the game first starts, also having never played this game before, I didn't know just how sinister it got. This was released back in 1996 with the original RPG release, and back then you could basically put whatever you wanted into these games. So when I saw Peach just hanging there with only her feet visible, I was like, oh my god, Peach is dead! And then she wasn't, she was fine. But then I saw her jump out this window and I was like, oh my god, Peach is really dead! And she wasn't, she was fine. It's all good. No, but on a serious note, this game, summarized in one sentence, is just purely a breath of fresh air. I can't speak to how faithful this was to the original release, or how much of an improvement it was since I never played the original, but I can only speak to my time with this game, and mate, what a time it was. This game has so much personality across its characters, its visual presentation, and just having fun with the player exploring this new world. Take for example this. I'm using this launcher and wanted to see what would happen if I launched myself off a cliff. And there was a small animation there instead of just blocking it with a boring invisible wall. This small attention to detail happens throughout the game where the developers clearly understand that players will just try silly things and is willing to have fun back with the player. I mean, even one of the moves that Bowser uses is to pick up Mario and throw him at enemies. And there are fun moments where Bowser is reunited with his minions who have all got new lives after being kicked out of the castle. There are Easter eggs spread throughout this game, and there are even moments of karma which paid off brilliantly. Take for example this girl here who tries to trick you into thinking that you stepped in some dog shit. Yeah, karma's a bitch, isn't it? Can't move at all. Now who's really in this shit? Moments like these were peppered throughout my game that gave me such an appreciation to not only how much work has gone into this remake, but just how solid of a foundation the original Mario RPG actually set. And just even something as small as going to sleep and waking up to a very familiar face just is a testament to the passion and love for this franchise. I can deeply understand why this was touted as one of the best Mario games and an absolute must play for Mario fans. Through its creative level designs, accessible controls and mechanics, fun minigames, notable moments and exciting character interactions, this really is one of the best games you can get on the Switch. And aside from the fantastic graphics and unique look that this game sports, the first thing that really struck me when booting up this game was its music. A fantastic blend of remade classic Mario songs and new songs I've never heard before. And both the beautiful visuals and the music perfectly complemented the events taking place. And as I continued playing, my overall impression of the game was that the game itself really respects the player and their time. This is an RPG, however it's not an RPG that demands players grind mindlessly to reach an arbitrary number in order to progress, or have each level feel so small and incremental with each new addition. It's quite the opposite in fact, where each new level is really felt by the player and it's actually quite considerable. Now, the game's difficulty, even just on a normal setting, isn't anything that will provide too much of a challenge so long as you're fighting most of the enemies that come across your path, and also taking advantage of the many clothing, armor, and consumable items at your disposal. Now, this game does do a fantastic job of keeping you at pace with the difficulty curve, and you will feel your characters feeling a little weaker if you start to skip over the enemies in your path. Now, I did die a couple of times, I am man enough to admit that, but it didn't really feel like a punishment. It felt like more of a gentle reminder that the game was telling me, hey, you're falling behind a little bit, go out and grind a little bit, and then after maybe 10 to 15 minutes, I was right back exactly where I needed to be to progress with the story. I never felt punished for not wanting to fight every living thing that came up in front of me, which is sometimes a feeling I get in other RPGs. Now, in most areas, you will be able to purchase items through the shops that can be equipped to different players in your team. It is a very straightforward system, and in most cases, certain items can only be applied or equipped to one character. If it can be applied to more than one, the game will let you know by showing you whose stats will change, and this tells you who it can be equipped to. And this only just speaks to how low the barrier to entry of this game actually is. It's so accessible. It's very simple throughout its many mechanics that most players will easily grasp and will be able to quickly get into enjoying this game. And you absolutely want to equip these items as soon as you can too, because like the leveling in this game, equipping better items isn't just small incremental changes, it makes some players feel like they're going God mode. I had moments where I equipped one item and the character was doing around 200 points of damage, and once this item was equipped, it was up to almost 400. So it really makes a difference. Now, combat in this game is actually pretty easy to understand, however it will require you to pay attention if you really want to maximize your effectiveness in battle. As you would imagine, every single character in this game that is playable on your battlefield has their own strengths and weaknesses, and who you have out as your main three will entirely depend on your particular playstyle. For me personally, I had Mario, Gina, and Peach. I feel like Mario from the start was always putting out huge amounts of damage. He has a great balance of physical and special moves, all of which can deal massive damage if he has the right equipment attached and the correct timing implemented. Gino was by far my favorite character to play as he has some of the biggest hitting attacks. His specials were always a delight to watch and just always packed a punch, and he just felt like one of the most reliable characters in the game. And Peach is incredibly useful to be on anyone's team, especially once you get her past level 13. By then, Peach would have learned Group Hug, which heals all allies on the field so long as they're not dead, and also learns Comeback, which can revive a fallen ally. Now, this is incredibly useful because you get a very limited amount of potions or revives that you can carry in your inventory, so having Peach there to double up as more healing potions or revives was just fantastic and absolutely crucial to my team. It really meant that even if I was in a tough situation and I ran out of potions, I could still rely on Peach to get me out of that pickle. Now, all characters learn their last special move at level 18, and from level 18 to level 30, it's just going to be some stat buffs. Now, in terms of finishing this game, what level should you be? You do not need to max out these characters to level 30. I finished around mid-20s, and I feel like that was a good balance where it was still very achievable, but it still had some kind of challenge. If you max out these characters to level 30, you're going to absolutely breeze through the end. Anything sort of around that 20, low 20s, high teens, you're going to have a hard time. But I feel like around that sort of mid-20 mark is the sweet spot with where you want to be. Now, I did say before that you do need to pay attention to the combat. This isn't your usual run-of-the-mill turn-based system where you just choose a move and let the animations play out. No, there's timing and finesse in this game which forces players to stay present, aware, and immersed in every single battle. There is a timing mechanic where if you press A at the right time, the damage output will be much larger. Failing to time it right means the damage output will be much lower or may miss out on a secondary hit. Likewise for defense, if an enemy is attacking you, a well-timed button may throw up a shield where you can block that incoming move. Getting this timing down was crucial in some battles, as it's what allowed me to take advantage of the times where I was attacking and dealing as much as I could, as well as also minimizing the damage I was taking. Now, not only that, but who you have on your team really makes a difference too. As previously discussed, each character brings their own in terms of their value to the table, and there's a real sense of synergy between characters and even dictating what triple action move you get when you build up this gauge. A triple action move? What is that? Well, when you've built up this bad boy here, you'll get to use a special move. Ooh, special. And depending on the 3 characters you have out, you'll be able to perform a certain ultimate or special move of sorts, all of which have varying effects. Some might provide a shield to your team, some might focus a hit on one particular enemy, or it might span across all enemies on the field. Regardless, they're all beautifully animated and a real treat every time they're used. And I really think they nailed the combat in this game to a T. No one really felt useless or too weak, and if they did, it was mostly down to user error where you haven't leveled properly or you haven't equipped the right item. They really did do a great job in balancing 5 different characters, all with different uses. On top of that, the enemy variety in this game is just absolutely superb, and it's actually left me sort of wondering or calling into question why so many of the characters seen in RPG have never made a return back into the newer Mario games. You've got so many classic Mario enemies, and then you've got so many new ones, and they're all just so creative. I just wish some of them came back for more modern Mario games. And hey, Kong's in here too. Not anymore. Now, unfortunately, with all that praise, I did have a few issues with this game, and they were packed right at the end of the game, which meant that as I finished this game, it did leave a fairly sour taste in my mouth. They throw so many bullshit things at you that feel entirely unnecessary and irrelevant to the main story or what's going on. You go from fighting just regular enemies, and then you start fighting a bunch of Smithy's army members, which is totally fine. And hey, this makes sense to me because you're making your way up the ranks. Of course, there'll be a larger presence of this gang or army as you're making your way up through those ranks. But they are all crammed in right at the end. Now, you do get a few different boss battles throughout your play, however they are fairly spaced out, a little bit too much. And toward the end of the game, you do get a lot of new bosses, but then you get machine versions of every other character or boss that you fought before. And to me, it kind of felt like the game sort of forgot about this army and the boss battles that were planned to be put in the game. And it kind of felt like they went, oh shit, yeah, fight them all at the end, one after another. Let's just change the color palette on some of them too. Okay, cool, done. And it just slowed down the momentum and the perfect pacing that the rest of the game had, because these boss battles actually go on for a little bit longer, so having so many in such quick succession just slowed down everything. And the fights weren't even that difficult, they were just more long. So it felt more like a hurdle than anything else. And speaking of hurdles, Jesus Christ, these 6 doors almost made me not finish this game because of how frustrating and annoying they were. And no, not because they were difficult in any way. They were just so annoying and disjointed from the events taking place, and it felt like the game was just purposely delaying you getting to the final boss. You feel like you're right at the end of the game, and it's just so much shit is going down and you've accomplished so much by this point, and then the game just turns around and says,
hey, here are 6 doors. You need to complete 4 to move on.
And I'm just sitting there like, what? What are you talking about? Why do I need to do 4 out of 6 doors? What the fuck is this? Now, the 6 doors are broken up into 3 different ways. 2 are battle courses, 2 are puzzle courses, and 2 are action courses. All of them were tedious and boring and not fun. You do get some good items from completing these doors, but I would have just rather missed out on the items entirely or just bought them from the shop like you do throughout the rest of the game. Now, one last issue I did have with this game were its platforming sequences, which did become somewhat frustrating. You have to land pretty dead center on the platform, and it's not really like other Mario games where you could have something as small as 1 pixel on the block and you'd still stand normally. No, if your feet aren't firmly planted on that platform, bye-bye. The game also won't let you jump if you try and you're too close to the edge of that platform. But with all those complaints out of the way, this game oozes personality, charm, and character. And I cannot thank Nintendo enough for resurfacing this old gem so a new generation of players can try for the first time and have players return to a game that they grew up on as kids. Aside from a very few minor problems, I thoroughly enjoyed my time trying Mario RPG. And if you were like me and on the fence about it, rush out and get it. It is a shorter game, but my god, what an excellent time I had playing. It's a game that doesn't overstay its welcome, it respects the player's time, and it's a game that just put me in a good mood whenever I played it. And it's also a game that I just can't wait to jump back into, minus those fucking doors. What's behind door number 1? It's my Ko-fi link. Guys, if you do want to go ahead and support what I do on this channel, please consider becoming a Ko-fi member. You get your name at the end of the video like these beautiful people on screen now, and you also get early access to the videos that I release. And if that's not your speed, that's totally fine, but go ahead and leave a comment down below, letting me know if you've played Mario RPG before, and if you have, who is usually on your main team. And hey, if you like the video, please go ahead and leave it a like, subscribe to the channel for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Take care.